Profitable Practice Pro, and this is the Partnership Advantage podcast. All things about business partnerships and people who work with business partners. And today I'm absolutely over the moon happy to have, Shannon Carriere with me, who is a human resource specialist and with a whole slew of background of things that she's quite capable in as my special guest today. So thank you, Shannon. Appreciate your being here.
Oh, Paul, it's so good to be here and so excited to see you again. It's been too long.
Yeah, so Shannon and I met, my goodness, through a business networking event 6 or 7 months ago. And I said, I've got to get Shannon on the show. Because when we actually met and had a little conversation about sharing what we do and perhaps how we could help each other, and I said, Shannon's got a different message. She's got to be a guest on the show. So here we are, 2 months, 3 months after that, finally together on the screen. So thank you again.
So excited about that.
So I'm just going to take a second to sprinkle a little bit of Shannon's expertise so you can be humble and just be quiet and let me go through it and I share some of your expertise. So Shannon is a people over everything human resource leader with global experience across industries, including medical device, software, uh, financial services, and construction. That is a broad case of businesses. And a proven track record of building HR functions, from scratch, rented lips. Ooh. Her work across the United States, Central America, Europe, reflects her ability to navigate complex and multicultural environments. And in today's world, if you're not up on your multicultural environments, you better get with the program. Shannon's a firm believer that there are no limits in how we accomplish as humans to make experiences not only better, but beyond expectations for all involved. And Shannon specializes in working one to one with leaders and also working with groups and extracting, I like this, the genius within and giving them the tools they need to realize the fullest extent of their leadership capabilities. Shannon doesn't take ordinary for an answer, and that's why she's on the screen today. I want you all to enjoy that. And Shannon currently is loving the Colorado forest with her spouse and two active boys and two dogs, of course. And if it weren't for the joy she has in supporting organizations, she'd gladly spend all day outside with a book or a cup of tea, pardon me, and the company of her dogs. Welcome again, Shannon.
Hands down. Yeah. Actually, could we go do that right now? That sounds delightful.
So why don't we just dive right into it? When
Okay.
I met you, online, we had a great discussion and having read your resume and your business history, and it tells a story of really in communications at its base. I mean, it
Mhm.
builds out from there.
Yeah.
And both as a facilitator and developing leadership teams, and your passion for what you do really does shine through. So, what attracted you to the human resource field? Tell us a bit of your backstory to that. I've read the resume, but I know that's a lot deeper.
Yeah, but like many, I fell into it, but you're right. And the path I would say really did start in facilitation. And I think that's where I realized first after many, many tries that if I said this one thing in just this one way, then just boom, explosion, light bulbs go off. And for me, that held a kind of power, if you will, and a really amazing opportunity to give to others. And I think there just is a true art to communication and its ability to make change if done just the right way.
That's a great way to say that. And one thing that I learned about, for example, was when you talk about what you do for a living, and and if you start by saying, "Well, I make money doing this," and you turn it around and you go, "I help people doing this to earn a living." So you've said essentially the same thing, but how you framed it up,
Mhm.
totally different.
That's right. I make those light bulbs go off, Paul.
It makes the light bulbs go off.
Yeah.
Exactly. Love light bulb moments. So in the conversation we had a couple of months ago, you shared your thoughts on the importance of a good landing place for employees and
Mhm.
much more than basic onboarding. We hear about onboarding and how important it is, but when we got into the conversation and you started talking about the importance of system, and that's when your language really got my attention, and the
Mhm.
light came off and going, oh, I thought if you have the good people, the systems can be built, but you're looking at this from a total different perspective.
Completely the other way around, and I think it does relate back to the light bulbs because those are critical in the first days and even weeks of a job. So you have to have moments where you see people connect with the work, the other people, and the company, I'd say overall. And if those don't exist, then at the beginning, the doesn't begin in the systems at the beginning, they might never. And then you have a revolving door of people that never fully grasp what the company is, intends, belongs, all of those pieces. And so putting systems in place that teach the light bulbs to come on is not only a more fulfilling experience, I think, for employees, but you're saving a heck of a lot of time and money.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more to it and go, here's our operations manual, have with it, you know?
Oh my gosh. And that's my nightmare because
Yeah,
there are no lights on when that is happening. None.
yeah. These are the rules, these are the boundaries, and best of luck. So
Yeah.
when you're meeting with prospective clients or working with existing clients, and to get them to that moment, because we both know it's extremely time consuming to dive in and start building the systems and that become more receptive to new staff and more
Mhm.
enjoyable, more importantly, to the existing staff, because
Mhm.
retention is part of the game too.
Yeah.
Is how to what's the reaction from owners when, as a human resource specialist, when you go, well, what about this? And changing the gears to how do you operate your business? You move from HRR to a COO consultant.
Yeah. Well, and it does happen. I mean, I don't call myself that, but I think it does happen in the midst of things because people are touching everything that we do. So I can't, again, I'm not coming out talking about that from the beginning, but you start
Yes.
to see value when you're asking the right questions. And I think people come around when they see the common sense of it. We're not creating processes for the sake of processes. It already is instinctually and fits into what we already want to do, but there's something in us that's preventing us from going, "Oh, well, why don't we just do the most obvious thing?" And we very rarely do the most obvious thing. There's something getting in our way.
It's really, and that is is not kind of, I'll come right out and say it. It's a coaching technique too, that when you're meeting with these people, because you're
Mhm.
not coming with a playbook of
Mhm.
this is how it's done, because each
Right.
business is a little different. There are different levels in terms of their evolution.
Mhm.
When a business moves from founder to all of a sudden employees, and we need to create a team, um, the pressure points are different in each business. So it's really about crafted questions, isn't it?
Mhm. Well, I don't even know if they're crafted. I think they just, at least for me, they come when you're observing. You walk into an organization and you see it operate a little bit, and sometimes only an outsider can see the gaps, which has been my lucky strike there. But you can see and go, "Oh, just look at that." And I think if you can approach that without without shame, right? This doesn't have to be we're embarrassed or that we did anything wrong. We just we just did what we were doing and didn't recognize it. And we're just problem solving here. So we see a problem. Why don't we just fix it? No hard feelings. Let's just make it better because don't we all want that? Don't we all want our company to be better?
Yeah. And most owners want it and they don't know how to obtain it, how to move to a business that runs without
Mhm.
them. Put your
That's
ego
right.
aside. Let's build a business that you can orchestrate without playing every instrument in the orchestra.
Yeah. Egos are tougher than they look.
And they're expensive.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
so because it when you go in, because you think about, the traditional uh, compliance work with human resources and then whether
Mhm.
that's the open door. And I want to ask you a little bit about, your HR business, the 24-hour I'm on call, I'm here for you,
Okay.
and share a bit about how that evolved from your process, pardon me, of building out your business. And that to go from the compliance to being a leader or a team facilitator, creator, helping co-creating a new
Mhm.
system with an owner. When did that, because did you start with compliance or did you always have this extra piece that you felt, well, when I start my own human resource business, it's got to kind of got to start as compliance and then it morphed into this.
Ah, I
Is that a fair question?
It's a fair question. I feel like I can speak for most HR professionals that we have a love-hate relationship with compliance, right? It is your it is your necessary evil. So in many ways, I think I avoided it for a very long time. But
Yeah.
I'm of the realization that sometimes a business, when they're especially when they're starting out or even when they're about, I don't know, midway through some of that growth process, they think compliance is the only thing that matters. It's not. I think for those of us who have been in business for a long time, we have learned a lot of other things, but I find that education for compliance is sometimes an open door for folks to understand that there's really more to this. It doesn't have to be transactional. We could actually do well, right? We don't have to just do, we can do well. And I think that's just the door to that. So necessary evil, but it's certainly an important tool that has to be accomplished.
And if I can share just a little bit from my experiences working with accounting firm owners and investment firm owners who live in a compliance world,
Mhm.
is getting them to be able to step back, which you've been able to do with business owners, is to have the conversation that moves them into entrepreneurial thinking. Well, let's just not build a business. We got to build the systems to build the business.
Mhm.
And then you're and having compliance running in the background, as important as it is, because you still need to be compliant.
Yeah, the
But what's
foundation.
the best way to deliver on it?
Yeah, yeah. I I think really, when we go back to the thought process around how do we align everyone on what is important, and it's
Yes,
about bringing to light the intricacies of how systems touch people, people touch productivity, and productivity touches profitability, right? This is how we get there. Have you met an accountant without a system?
actually, they have a system in terms of how they work with the financials,
Mhm.
but very few small practice accounting firm owners have a system to running their business
Yeah,
because they're technicians first and they're business owners second. And that's
yeah,
part of what I love to do is open the door for them to become better business owners. They're already great accountants. They know the process.
yeah.
So, and you're already process driven. So how do we move that ability, the accounting process, and install that in your actually how you run your accounting? And I don't like to say practice, the accounting business.
But that's
So
exactly it, because they're missing that system to run their business. We don't have happy accountants, right? We just have them that they're doing their thing. And I
that's
think
right.
it applies to all humans, right? Whether you're an accountant who typically has your own technical or technician type systems or anybody else, even in a sales world, you having systems for, at least from my world, onboarding, understanding how we get paid, knowing how I can do a good job, that those are the kinds of things that make or break employment life. So systems are where satisfaction, connection, profit all come together.
I love to hear the word profit come from a human resource specialist. because it's those are the three pillars really is people, processes, and profits. Those three
Yeah,
P's. And if you
that's
get
right.
that recipe in the right mixture, you've got a great business. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think and let's speak to that from a human resources perspective. Like, if you don't have human resources that has the focus on all 3 things, or let alone anyone else in your business who isn't focused on all 3 things, you might be missing the boat.
I think that you'd be right. They'd be missing the boat. So, the word fractional is in every aspect now of independence, like yourself or mine, although we
Mhm.
may have virtual assistants and other people involved with us. And that the fact that fractional doesn't mean they get a diluted you, because they
Right.
actually get 100% you, even though it's
Mhm.
fractional.
Mhm.
Because you can't be in their business the whole time working away at this thing. They've got other parts of the business they've got to keep adding grease to the wheels,
And
right?
nobody
To
wants
keep
that
them
anyway.
spinning. Yeah. So it's so this is a podcast about business partnerships and the importance of vision, expectations, and establishing operational boundaries. So if we
Mhm.
could just dive into partnership dynamics here for a bit, because that's part of what the show's about.
Okay.
And navigating business partners, for example, who respect each other. There's often things that aren't said just to keep the peace.
Mhm.
And that it happens when that percolates long enough. Is is can you share a little bit about how you help partners establish boundaries and take responsibilities where trust is built in?
Mhm.
Is that
It's fair. It's a
this
fair
may be
question
not
you were gonna
knocking.
ask. Yeah.
It wasn't a
What's that?
question that I had shared about it, but it was when I look at that and go, because it is important, and often as I've heard, because when I, for example, and this show's not about me, but for example, what I do if I've got business partners, 2 or 3 or whatever, and they each have to do their vision statements separately. You can't
Mhm.
talk about your homework till we're all at the table.
Mhm.
And then they present their vision of their job, the company separately. And how many times have I heard, "Why didn't you tell me?" They weren't upset. They just didn't know what the other business partner wanted
Mhm.
deep down inside. So that's where I was kind of going with that because I'm certain in your experience when you talk about building systems, and I expect that you're very good at getting heads to nod when you're asking the questions and the light bulbs are coming on and they move down that path of going, yeah, let's build that, let's do that. Um,
I wanna say about that it does require some balance. So we talked about
okay.
everybody being on the same page with,
Yep.
profit, people, processes. That has to
Yep.
happen, right?
That has to happen.
Everyone has to be on the same page. So, yes, you can bring people together and we can talk about our different visions, but we can't leave until those visions come together.
Exactly.
And then the next step is, and this is the challenge that a lot of companies struggle to shift to, is that once we come together with that vision, then one person becomes the leader. The democracy doesn't continue to exist because it will continue to derail if that is the case. We make a decision, we go towards a vision, and one person is the keeper of that moving forward. It's very important.
Wow. I have, all my years in owning businesses, running, I've never heard of that. I knew that you need to have an ultimate decision maker at some point because
Yeah,
everything can't be democratic at all levels of the business because it's kind of like jazz music. You make it up as you go along, and
yeah.
you can't do that. So
It
when it
becomes an
comes to that,
accountability problem, right? So that person is the one that is holding everyone accountable, and they cannot be weak in that accountability. They have to keep reminding everyone that we came together deciding that we're all on the same path: profit, people, performance. We're all on this path. Let's go back to that. You got to have somebody kind of waving that flag.
We talked briefly before we started about ego, and it's at that point that if you have two or three partners and they're equal partners, that, you know, if Sally was chosen that she is the leader of this process and what's going to take place, um, building that respect between the partners that they all still bring something, but the
Mhm.
right person to lead it just happens to be Sally or George, whoever it is.
Right? And isn't that it? It's the definition of that. So we can choose to define, and I believe that defining helps us move forward, or we could choose not to define and accept that we are going to have misunderstandings. We are not going to move as quickly on our initiatives as we want to, because there will always be that little internal tension, or big in some cases.
Yeah, and then scheduling out how the shift is happening is so critical too.
Hmm.
And that everybody, even though they may not be the ultimate decision maker, and the leader maybe just be facilitating what's taking place, leading the
Hmm.
conversation, making sure that partners and next level down leaders are brought into the conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All of that is
Wow,
important.
this man, I've had a couple of light bulb moments here. Thank you, Shannon.
Well, let me add though, I think that is where I sometimes see my role is that I'm not the leader or decision maker, but sometimes I am the checker of ego, and in the kindest way, right? We have come to agreements and someone says, "But no, I want this." Sometimes someone else has to ask a tough question, and I often have the joy of playing that role.
And they don't throw you out if you ask the tough question.
Well, not all the time.
But they bring us in to do these things because we can and we ask the tough
Mhm,
questions.
mhm,
Because there's a million cheerleaders out there that will go in and pat business owners on the back who can't help them move forward. So it's the ones who ask the tough questions that actually get things done.
mhm. And I do think that is what's nice, whether it's fractional or someone comes in to consult a little bit differently, it feels less personal, right? That tough
Yeah,
question feels less personal. And then I think a leader, owner, founder feels more able to take it on because they're consulting versus, I don't know, maybe coming from their direct reports, it feels like an accusation. Sometimes that
yeah.
can be the difference.
Hmm. Wow. We're just about up for time. I'd love to carry this conversation on some
It
more.
goes fast. Yeah.
Um, how do people find you? And I know you've got a couple of it's just not human resource things that you do, but you've got a couple other businesses. So just share a bit more about, other parts of your business, and because you've got clients across North America and South America, you've got a
All over the
wide
place. Yeah.
all over the place, and
Yeah.
and you signed up for it, so
Guilty. That is true. So I would say there's two really main parts of my business. I focus my consulting efforts on interim or change focused work. Sometimes after
Mhm.
acquisitions can be the most likely situations in which big change needs to happen in an organization, and I come in and facilitate that. And then I also have my HR hotline, and that is
Yes.
for a variety of sizes of companies. But those who, you have something in place and you don't really need someone full time, but sometimes things come up that surprise you or frighten you, which can happen in the people space sometimes. And I am on call, unlimited time. With my hotline services and direct line services that you can find on carrierhr.com.
Wonderful. I mean, although this is live on LinkedIn, it will be on my YouTube channel, and I'm in the comment section below. I'll put in there how you can reach out to Shannon. But just to one point of that, I would think, just to drive a little more on that HR hotline, a lot of those I'm expecting would be compliance driven. I've got to let somebody go, or how much severance do I owe them? What forms do I need to fill out? All of those. Oh my God, I'm cornered. What do I do?
Very often, that is precisely what that is. It's not the same kind of long-term consulting, right? It's like, "Crap, I'm in a moment, what do I do?" And it's often
Yeah.
compliance related, yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much for being here. I've enjoyed the conversation. Pardon me. I know my viewers will as well. And I look forward to talking to you sometime again in the future. And again, I'll put Shannon's contact information in the comments section. Have a great day. Paul Roy, Profitable Practice Pro. Too many P's in that. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah. Thank you.